today's topic is anger. Anger is an important theme in A Course in Miracles. It really is a key element in the ego thought system. The word appears throughout the Course, and certainly there are synonyms: hate, attack, rage, mild twinges of annoyance, all different ways of expressing what anger is. And anger can be understood as being the projection of guilt. Guilt really is self-anger, self-hate. We accuse ourselves of having sinned, ultimately sinned against God, and then that guilt is so abhorrent to us that we have no recourse in order to survive but to project it out. And we project guilt out. We say, I'm not the guilty sinner, you are. And then we justify the projection by getting angry, so that the Course would say that anger screeches that guilt is real. Just as pain screeches to us that sin is real. There's a section called the witnesses to sin, and pain is the witness to sin. Someone outside of me has caused me pain, and that person or entity or microorganism is the sinner. So anger is always the projection of guilt, and there's no way of avoiding that once we are in this world, because only guilty people come into this world. The Course tells us that the world is a delusional system of those made mad by guilt, and that includes each and every one of us. If we believe we are here in a body, we also believe that we are guilty sinners and deserve to be punished, and again we seek to avoid that through the mechanism of projection and anger. And there are two places in the Course where Jesus tells us that anger is never justified. And this is often misunderstood by students, and it's taken to mean that we should not get angry. That's not what Jesus is telling us. Again, it's impossible not to get angry, because we come here, once again, as creatures of guilt. But by saying that anger is never justified, he's saying don't attribute your feeling of anger, an experience of anger, to anything that's external. People don't make you angry. You make yourself angry by making yourself guilty by choosing the wrong teacher. Choosing the ego thought system of separation and specialness, differentiation, is always a decision for guilt, and therefore is always a decision for anger. So anger is never justified, because no matter what you have done, no matter how hateful and vicious you may have been towards me or other people, you are not responsible for the loss of peace that gives way to anger. Right? In the section in the Teacher's Manual, what is the peace of God? Jesus tells us that basically, if you want to avoid the peace of God, since we're all so afraid of it, choose anger. And then anger becomes like a shield or a veil that falls across our minds. So anger then is a defense. All right. Now, part of the problem of all this is that psychologists have always taught that anger is a basic human emotion, that normal people get angry, and that makes perfect sense. Normal people do get angry in this world, but normal people don't come into this world. And it's interesting to note that one of the complaints that has always been raised against Freud is that he does not have a theory of normality, which of course is true. He did not think people were normal because he recognized the abnormality or these hateful thoughts, these insane thoughts that are in everyone's unconscious. And so, therefore, he did not have a theory of normality, because nobody here is normal. Right? One could somehow try through psychoanalysis to analyze away the guilt or these feelings of self-hatred, these big, bad, awful, dark, instinctual feelings and urges that we all have in our unconscious, according to Freud. But there's no way you could be free of them, really. So no one here is normal. And what is helpful is to realize, again, that only frightened, guilt-driven, sinful people come here. People who believe that they're sinful and guilty. And anger then, once again, will always seem justified to us, because we want to make other people guilty of our own feeling of dis-ease and discomfort, whether we're talking on a personal level or make other people or institutions or governments responsible for other people's unhappiness and oppression. But the fact of the matter is, once again, is that since there is nothing outside of us, because there is no world, this is a core element in the Course's theory, and one of the basic metaphysical foundations of the Course's teachings on forgiveness. Since there's nothing or no one outside of us, then how could what is not outside of us affect us? Anger always screams there is someone outside, someone who's evil, sinful, bad, or a microorganism that is evil, sinful, and bad, virulent, that could attack us, attack our bodies. And that may be true on the level of the body, but because there is no world, there is no body. There's only the dreaming mind that hallucinates a world that does not exist. And so the core of that statement that anger is never justified is the belief that no one and nothing has the power to take away the love and the peace of God from us. Only our decision-making mind can make that choice. So if any anger would be justified, it should be aimed at ourselves. But certainly not that we be angry, but that we recognize our mistake so that we could choose again. Choose innocence instead of guilt, and choose love instead of hate.